All right, so today we're going to be looking at relationships.
Uh-huh.
And specifically, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the work of Esther Perel.
Oh, yeah. She's great.
She is, I love her work. I find her so fascinating. Um, and one of the things I think is so interesting about her is her background.
Yeah.
She's a child of Holocaust survivors,
Wow.
and she speaks 9 languages.
9 languages.
9 languages.
That's incredible.
So you can just imagine the kind of global perspective that she brings to this conversation about relationships.
Absolutely.
It's not just like a very westernized
Right.
nuclear family kind of approach.
There's got to be so much more nuance to that.
Yeah. And one of the things that she talks about that I find so fascinating is this idea of the push and pull between love and desire.
Yeah, that's one of her, like, key things that she's known for.
Yeah.
Like, that's sort of like, we all want to feel loved and secure in our relationships,
Right.
but we also want them to be exciting and passionate.
It's that spark, right?
Really?
How do you keep that spark alive?
Yeah, how do you maintain both at the same time?
Think of both.
Like, can you have the security and the passion?
Right.
The comfort and the excitement.
Yeah, is it an either or is it a both and?
Well, she says it can definitely be a both and.
Okay.
But it's something that you have to work at.
Right.
Because it's this delicate balance.
Right.
You know, you have to remember that, like, love thrives on closeness, familiarity, security.
Primitive.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But then desire, on the other hand, that needs a little bit of space
Ooh.
to breathe.
Okay.
It needs a little bit of mystery.
So you're telling me I need to have some secrets.
Well, not necessarily secrets,
Okay.
but just like, a little bit of space for yourself,
All right.
a little bit of independence.
Right, so not being completely enmeshed.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Because she actually talks about how, at the beginning of a relationship, there's this natural, like, pursuit.
Right.
Chase.
You're not sure where you stand with the other person.
Right.
And that uncertainty, that kind of fuels the desire.
Right. Like, is she into me? Is he into me? I don't know.
Exactly.
And that makes you want them more.
Totally.
Right.
But then, as the relationship progresses,
You get comfortable.
you feel secure. Those feelings of stability set in.
Yeah.
And that initial spark can kind of start to fade a little.
Right. So, like, I was thinking about how in the beginning of a relationship, everything's new.
Yeah.
You're learning all this new information about the other person.
Right.
And it's exciting. And then over time, you kind of fall into a routine.
Totally. You get into those patterns
Yeah.
and you start to assume that you know everything there is to know about your partner.
Yeah. I know how this movie's going to end.
Right.
And that's not exciting.
Exactly. And that's where she says that curiosity comes in.
Okay.
Like, it's so important to stay curious
About your partner.
about your partner.
Even after years. Even after years of being together.
Okay.
So it's not just about, like, oh, hey, honey, how was your day?
Right.
It's about, like, really approaching them
Oh.
with this genuine sense of wonder.
Okay, so being interested,
Yes.
like truly interested.
Truly interested. Like, you're still learning about them.
Right.
Because people change.
People change, we evolve,
Yeah.
we grow as individuals.
Absolutely.
So if you're not paying attention, you might miss those subtle shifts.
Yeah, you miss how they're evolving.
And then you're not really relating to the person they are now.
Exactly.
You're relating to the person they were 5 years ago.
Right, and that's where things can start to feel disconnected.
Oh, so that's how that happens.
That's one of the ways that can happen. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, like, she tells this really great story about this couple that had been together for, like, over a decade.
Oh, wow.
And they were kind of in a rut. They felt like they were living separate lives.
Like ships passing in the night.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And they weren't really connecting on an emotional level anymore.
Okay.
And they decided to try something new.
What did they do?
They took up swing dancing together.
Swing dancing.
Swing dancing.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, and it completely, like, re-energized their relationship.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It forced them out of their comfort zones.
Okay.
They had to learn new skills together.
So they had to work together.
They had to work together.
Okay.
And they started seeing each other.
Literally.
Us.
Literally.
In a whole new light.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were seeing each other in a new way.
Right, because they're moving their bodies in a new way.
Yes, and they're having to, like, communicate in a different way.
Right.
And it just brought back that sense of playfulness and connection.
So it sounds like what happened was they sort of became beginners again.
Yes.
Together.
Exactly.
And they kind of reignited that spark.
Yeah, that spark of curiosity.
Right, because they had to look at each other with fresh eyes and see what the other person was capable of.
Totally. And appreciate each other's efforts. Like, oh, wow, you're really good at that.
Yeah.
Or, wow, you're really trying hard at that.
Right, like even if they were stumbling
Yeah,
or
exactly.
stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, and they could laugh about it.
Right.
It brought back that sense of humor,
That lightness.
that lightness.
Yeah. So really, that embracing the unknown,
Yes.
even within a relationship,
Even within a
can
relationship.
bring back that spark.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It is. And she talks about how this curiosity shouldn't just be directed outward toward your partner.
Ooh.
It should also be inward toward yourself.
Oh.
Like, as we grow and change, it's crucial to stay curious about our own evolution.
Within the relationship.
Within the relationship, yeah.
Okay.
Like, what are we discovering about ourselves? What are our needs and desires?
Right.
How have our priorities shifted?
Because if we don't even know that about ourselves,
Yeah.
how can we expect to communicate that to someone else?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes this kind of self-exploration.
Can lead to disagreements or conflicts.
Okay.
But surprisingly, Perel sees this as a positive thing.
Wait, hold on. Conflict is a good thing?
Well,
I thought we were supposed to avoid conflict at all costs.
I think a lot of us are kind of conditioned to think that way.
Right.
That any kind of disagreement is a sign of like a troubled relationship.
Right. Like, if we're fighting, it means we're not meant to be together.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she has this really different perspective on conflict.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I want to hear more.
So she doesn't see it as something to avoid,
Okay.
like at all costs.
So it's not like if we're not fighting, we're good.
Right.
Okay.
Instead, she believes that addressing conflict openly and honestly,
Right.
in a healthy way, of course,
Of course.
can actually be like a really incredible opportunity for growth
Ooh.
and deeper intimacy.
Okay, so help me understand this, because I think most people, when they think about conflict, they think about like screaming and yelling
Right.
and like, hurtful things being said.
Yeah, of course, nobody wants that.
Right.
But think about it this way.
Okay.
When we kind of sweep issues under the rug
Yeah.
and we avoid having those difficult conversations,
Yeah, what happens?
resentment can build.
Ooh, resentment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And over time, that resentment can actually create a much bigger rift between partners
Than the initial conflict.
than the initial conflict ever would have.
Wow. So it's like that saying,
What's that?
a spark neglected burns the house.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. So it's like those little sparks.
Yeah.
If you don't deal with them,
No.
they can turn into a big fire.
Exactly.
Okay.
So she's saying face those sparks head on,
Okay.
have those conversations.
Address it as it comes up.
Right.
Okay.
But of course, there's a right way and a wrong way to approach conflict.
Right. Because I was going to say, you can't just like be, screaming at each other all the time
Of course not.
and calling each other names.
No, it's about like fighting fair.
Okay, fighting fair. What does that mean?
Well, it starts with understanding that conflict is inevitable in any relationship.
Yeah.
It's not about if you'll disagree, it's about how you'll disagree.
Okay, so shifting the mindset from like, this is a threat
Right.
to this is an opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
To understand your partner's perspective,
Oh.
to clarify your own needs,
Right.
and to find solutions that work for both of you.
Okay, so what are some tips for fighting fair?
Well,
Like, what are the rules of engagement?
one of the things she talks about is like avoiding attacking your partner's character.
Oh, that makes sense.
Instead of saying things like, you're always so selfish,
Right.
focus on the specific behavior that's bothering you.
Okay, so instead of you never take out the trash,
Yeah.
it would be I felt hurt
Yeah.
or I felt ignored or whatever.
Exactly.
When you didn't take out the
When you
trash.
didn't take out the trash.
Okay.
It's about addressing the issue
Okay.
without resorting to blame or generalizations.
Because when you say you always,
Or you never,
you're putting them on the defensive.
yeah, you're making it about them as a person.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not about them as a person. It's about the behavior
Right.
that's impacting you.
Okay. And I imagine active listening
Yes,
is a big part of this as well.
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
when your partner is speaking,
Yeah.
really try to hear what they're saying,
Right.
even if you don't agree with it.
Okay.
And one of the things she talks about a lot is validating your partner's emotions.
Oh, so instead of jumping in with a rebuttal,
Right.
or like,
Well, actually,
oh yeah, but you did this,
yeah,
acknowledge how they're feeling.
exactly. Like something as simple as, I understand you're feeling frustrated,
Right.
can go a long way.
Because then they feel heard.
They feel heard.
Okay.
They feel understood. And that creates a sense of safety.
Right.
So then you can actually have a more productive conversation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like taking a pause,
Mm.
breathing.
And then trying to understand where the other person's coming from.
Exactly.
And it's funny because that goes back to what we were talking about earlier
What's that?
about curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you can be curious.
Even in the middle of an argument,
Right.
you can choose to stay curious about their experience
Right.
instead of getting defensive.
Okay.
And that can really de-escalate things.
Interesting. And she also talks about this idea, right, of individuality being good for the relationship,
Yeah.
which is another thing that I think a lot of people maybe push back against.
I think so.
Right? We think like, oh, if we're going to be a strong couple, we need to do everything together.
Yeah, like joined at the hip.
Right.
Right.
But what she's saying is no.
It's actually really healthy to have your own interests and passions
Outside of the relationship?
outside of the relationship.
Okay.
Because that makes you a more interesting and engaging partner.
It's like that thing, you know, when you're on an airplane,
Uh-huh.
they say put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others.
Exactly.
And it's like that with a relationship.
Yeah.
You got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, you have to nurture yourself as an individual so that you can then bring your best self
To the relationship.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're just going to be like sucking the life out of your partner.
Right.
If you're expecting them to meet all of your needs.
Yeah, and that's too much pressure on one person
Right.
to be everything for you.
Yeah, and that's probably how resentment builds on the other side too.
Totally.
Right.
It goes both ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you have your own hobbies and friendships and pursuits that light you up,
Yes.
you bring that energy back into the relationship.
It's like you're recharging your batteries.
Yeah.
And then you can come back and be present
Exactly.
and engaged.
And you have something to talk about.
Yeah.
Something to share.
Right. You're not just like, oh, work was the same.
Yeah.
How was your day? Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I went to this amazing concert.
Right.
I learned this new skill.
To this pottery class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're bringing in like new experiences.
And it kind of prevents you from being stagnant and predictable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like introducing an element of surprise back into the relationship.
Like, oh, I didn't know you liked to do that.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
And that can be really alluring.
Okay, so keeping a little bit of mystery even within a long-term relationship.
Yeah, she actually has this great analogy
Great.
where she compares a long-term relationship to a house.
Okay.
And she says, you want to make sure that like all the rooms are well lit
Right.
and inviting,
Okay.
but you also want to leave some rooms a little bit dim, a little bit mysterious.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about this idea of like desire and fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is another area that I think a lot of couples,
It can be a little tricky.
it's a little taboo, right?
Yeah.
To talk about.
Yeah, yeah. People are often kind of afraid to talk about their fantasies or their desires, especially with their partner.
Right.
Um,
Because maybe they're afraid of being judged.
right.
Or maybe they're afraid of hurting their partner's feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe they're afraid that if they admit to this fantasy, it means they don't love their partner.
Right.
Or they want to be with someone else.
Exactly. There's a lot of fear
Right.
around that topic.
But she's saying it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, she actually argues that like open communication about our desires,
Okay.
even if they don't directly involve our partner,
Right.
can actually deepen intimacy
Okay.
and create a stronger bond.
So like, how does that work?
Well, it's about acknowledging that we're complex beings.
Okay.
You know, we have a range of desires and fantasies,
Right.
and those desires don't diminish our love for our partner.
Okay, so you can want to have, you know,
Yeah.
a threesome
Uh-huh.
and still be in love with your husband.
Exactly. Like it's not an either or,
Right.
it's a both and.
Okay.
And sometimes simply sharing those fantasies
Yeah.
without any expectation of acting on them
Okay.
can actually create a sense of closeness and excitement.
So just letting your partner in to that part of yourself.
To that part of yourself
Yes.
creates closeness.
Yeah, because you're being vulnerable
Okay.
and you're trusting them
With this really private part of yourself.
with this really private part of yourself.
Yeah. And that can create intimacy.
Intimidate intimacy.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
And so then there's this idea of the third, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is one of the most fascinating things that she talks about.
It's really interesting.
So for people who aren't familiar, what is the third?
So the third, it's not another person.
Okay, good.
Like, it's not about bringing another person
Okay.
into the relationship.
All right.
It's about everything outside of the couple
Okay.
that influences their relationship.
I like
So that could be shared interest.
hobbies, friends, family,
Okay.
cultural experiences, even memories.
Okay, so it's like this web
Yes.
of connection
This invisible web.
that kind of surrounds the couple.
Yeah.
And she's saying that that's important.
She's saying it's important to recognize it
Okay.
and to integrate it into the relationship because it can actually enrich the relationship.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, like let's say a couple is really passionate about environmental activism,
Okay.
right? So their shared commitment to that cause,
Yeah.
that becomes part of their third. It
Okay.
gives them something to bond over, something
Yeah.
to work towards together, something to
Right.
be proud of as a team.
So it's like this shared purpose
Yeah,
that kind of transcends just the two of them,
exactly.
and it can bring them closer.
It can bring them closer.
Okay.
It can also help them weather difficult times.
How
Well,
so?
because when you're facing challenges,
Yeah.
it's helpful to have something bigger than
To
yourselves
hold on to.
to hold on to.
Okay.
So if they're going through a rough patch,
Right.
but they're both still really committed to, let's say, fighting climate change,
Right.
that can give them a sense of purpose and meaning
Okay.
that can help them
So
through,
it's like this anchor
yeah, like a shared anchor.
that keeps them grounded
Exactly.
when things are stormy.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
But at the same time,
Uh-oh.
she also acknowledges that the third can sometimes create tension
Oh.
within a relationship.
Okay.
So it's not all like sunshine and roses.
Right. I was going to say, I thought this was supposed to be a good thing.
It can be a good thing,
Okay.
but you have to be mindful of it
Okay.
because sometimes one partner might feel like the third is taking precedence
Over the relationship.
over the relationship.
Okay.
Like, for example, if one partner is spending all of their free time volunteering
Right.
for a cause they're passionate about,
Yeah.
their partner might start to feel neglected.
So it's about finding that balance again.
It's always about finding that balance.
Right.
Yeah.
Between the individual, the couple,
Yes.
and the third.
And the third.
Wow.
It's a delicate dance,
It sounds like it.
but it's a dance worth mastering.
Because it can bring so much richness
Yes,
and depth to the relationship.
absolutely.
And it can help you grow as individuals and as a couple.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been so interesting.
Yeah, she's got some great insights.
I love how she weaves all these different ideas together. It's not just like, here's the 5 steps to a happy relationship.
Right.
It's so much more nuanced than that.
Much more nuanced.
Yeah, and she's really looking at the whole picture
Yeah, she's looking at the whole tapestry
of what it means to be in a relationship.
of what it means to be human
Yes.
and how we relate to each other.
Exactly.
And one of the things I really appreciate about her work is that it's not prescriptive.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, she's not giving us a list of rules to follow. She's more like offering us a new way of thinking about relationships,
Okay.
a new lens through which to view our own experiences.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like food for thought.
Yes.
It's like thought-provoking questions that you can then apply to your own relationship.
Exactly.
And see what comes up.
And see what comes up for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and that's why I think her work resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
Because it's not like telling you what to do.
Right.
It's like inviting you to think differently
Yes.
about these really important aspects of our lives.
And it's empowering because it makes you realize you have choices.
Absolutely.
You have agency in your own relationship.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, well, this is how it is and I'm stuck.
Right.
You can actually make changes.
You can make
Oh.
choices. You can create the kind of relationship that
Right.
you want.
Wow. And it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state of bliss.
No.
It's more about,
It's about the journey.
it's about the journey,
Yeah.
the ups and downs, the ups and downs,
The messiness,
the messiness,
the challenges, the
Yeah.
triumphs,
all of it.
all of it. Yeah.
And finding ways to keep that spark alive,
Yeah.
even amidst the everyday chaos of life.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So speaking of keeping the spark alive,
Yeah.
one of the things that she talks about that I find really interesting is this idea that sometimes a little distance can actually make the heart grow fonder.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
So she's not saying go live separate lives.
No.
Right.
Not at all.
But she is encouraging couples to,
to give each other space.
okay,
To pursue their own
passions.
passions, hobbies, friendships outside of the relationship.
Okay, so why is that important?
Well, because when we have our own fulfilling experiences,
Okay.
we bring that energy back
Into the relationship.
into the relationship.
Right. So again, it's like that recharging your batteries.
Yeah,
Exactly kind of analogy.
Totally.
And it prevents you from becoming too dependent on your partner.
Like your part.
For all of your happiness.
Yeah, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
You know?
Because what if they let you down?
Exactly.
Or what if something happens?
Right.
Yeah.
You want to have your own sources of joy and fulfillment.
Right. So it's like having a life outside of the relationship
Yes.
makes the relationship stronger.
It can actually make it stronger.
That's so counterintuitive.
I know.
Because we think, oh, if we really love each other, we want to spend all our time together.
Right, but she's saying, actually,
Yeah.
the opposite can be true.
Give each other space.
Give each other space.
Miss each other.
Miss each other.
Appreciate each other's presence.
Exactly. And then when you come back together,
Yeah.
it's with this renewed sense of excitement and appreciation.
Right, because absence makes the heart grow fonder.
That's it.
Right.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
And you also get to see each other with fresh eyes.
You're not so used to them
Yay.
being around all the time.
Yeah. You start to take them for granted.
Right.
So it's like you're constantly rediscovering each other.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
And that rediscovery can be really good for the relationship.
It can be really invigorating.
It's like spicing things up.
It's like adding a little spice to the mix.
Right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it gets bland
It can get a little bland
and boring
if you're always together.
if you're always doing the same things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit of space can go a long way.
So I guess what I'm hearing from her is that relationships take effort.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional
You do.
about creating the kind of relationship
About creating the kind of relationship that you want.
that you want.
Yeah.
And it's not going to just happen magically.
No.
Yeah.
And you're going to go through ups and downs.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to navigate challenges.
But she's saying, like, that's okay.
That's part of it.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
And it's not a sign that your relationship is doomed. It's just a sign that you're human.
You're human and you're in a relationship.
Right.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So you might as well embrace it.
Lean into it.
Lean into it.
Wow, this is so good.
Yeah.
So I think next time what we should do
Yeah.
is talk about some more like
Yeah.
concrete tips,
Concrete.
actionable advice.
Yes. Actionable advice.
For people who are like, okay, I love all this.
Right.
Now what?
How do I actually put this into practice?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can kind of dive into some of the things that she talks about
Yeah.
in terms of communication, rituals of connection,
Yes.
all that good stuff. Expert speaker.
So, yeah, rituals are really important.
Okay, so what do you mean by rituals?
Well, it could be anything from like a designated date night
Okay.
once a week to even just like making a point of putting your phones away
Right.
and like giving each other your undivided attention for 15 minutes
Okay.
each day.
So it's like being intentional about carving out time
Yes.
for connection.
It's about being intentional because it's so easy to just get swept up
Right.
in the busyness of life.
And just assume that like, oh, we live together.
Right.
So we're connecting.
We see each other all the time.
Right.
But it's not quality time.
It's not quality time.
It's not that deep connection
Right.
that we really need
Okay.
to thrive in a relationship.
So creating those rituals,
Mm-hmm.
even small ones.
Even small ones
Yeah.
can make a big difference.
And she also talks about physical touch
oh, yes.
being important.
Physical touch is huge.
Okay.
And it's not just about sex. It's about those little moments of affection throughout the day.
Like what? Like.
A hug,
Yeah.
a kiss, holding hands.
Right.
Just those small gestures
Yeah.
can have a really big impact
On your sense of connection.
on your sense of connection, your well-being.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like remembering that you're not just roommates.
Right,
Or co-parents.
You're romantic partners.
Right.
And you need that physical touch
To maintain that.
to maintain that spark.
To maintain that feeling of intimacy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So just little things like that can go a long way.
I like that.
Yeah.
So I know we were talking about conflict earlier,
Yeah.
and I want to dive back into that a little bit.
Okay.
Because, even with the best of intentions,
Of course.
we're going to disagree sometimes.
Disagreements are going to happen. It's inevitable.
So how do we handle those disagreements?
Well, one of the things she talks about
Yeah.
is using I statements
Okay.
instead of you statements.
So instead of you never listen to me,
yeah.
it would be I feel unheard
Exactly.
I
When
vote. When you do this.
Yeah, when you interrupt me.
When you're on your phone while I'm talking.
Exactly. It's a subtle shift in language,
Yeah.
but it can make a really big difference
In how the message is received.
in how the message is received.
Because statements feel accusatory.
Totally.
Okay.
It's like you're pointing the finger.
Yeah. Then the other person's like, whoa, hold on.
Right. They get defensive.
Right.
And then they're not really listening anymore.
They're just trying to protect themselves.
They're just trying to protect themselves.
Okay.
But when you use I statements,
Yeah.
you're taking ownership of your own feelings
Okay.
and your own experiences.
Right.
Which makes it easier for your partner
To empathize.
to empathize with you.
Okay. So it's like expressing your needs
Yes.
without blaming the other person.
Without blaming or attacking.
Attacking.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, it takes practice
I'm sure it does.
because you have to kind of catch yourself
Right.
in the moment.
Yeah. Because in the heat of the moment,
Oh, yeah.
you want to say you
You want to blame.
Yeah.
You want to point the finger.
did that.
Right.
You made me feel this way.
But if you can take a breath
Right.
and kind of reframe it
into an I statement.
into an I
It
statement.
can really change the dynamic of the conversation.
It can really shift the energy.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So really what I'm hearing from her is that communication is key
Communication is key
in any relationship,
in any
and
relationship.
especially in a romantic relationship
Yes, especially in a romantic relationship.
where you're trying to build a life together,
You're trying to create something
something
meaningful.
Yeah, and that requires a lot of
Communication,
vulnerability,
vulnerability,
all of that good stuff.
all of that good stuff.
So Perel also talks about this idea
Uh-huh.
of erotic intelligence,
Oh,
and I find this really fascinating
it's a really interesting concept.
because she's basically saying
Rough.
that we need to cultivate
Yeah.
a sense of aliveness
Yes.
and playfulness
Playfulness and adventure.
within our relationship, within the erotic realm.
within the erotic realm. Okay.
So it's not just about like, going through the motions in the
Right.
bedroom.
Okay.
It's about like really bringing a sense of curiosity.
And exploration.
Back to curiosity.
Back to curiosity.
I like that.
And like really being present
Okay.
with your partner.
So being present in your body,
in your body.
in the moment.
In the moment.
Not just like thinking about your to-do list or what you have to do tomorrow.
What you're going to make for dinner.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like really being there with your partner,
And being open.
being open to new experiences.
And trying new things.
Trying new things.
Okay.
Stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Like that.
Because that's where the magic happens.
Ooh, the magic.
The magic.
Yeah.
So it sounds like she's saying
Yeah.
that we need to make an effort
Yeah.
to keep things interesting.
To keep things fresh and exciting.
In the bedroom.
Yeah, in the erotic realm.
In the erotic realm.
Yeah, okay.
Because otherwise it can get stale.
Right. And if it gets stale, then what happens?
Well, you might start to feel disconnected
Okay.
from your partner.
You might start to feel like you're just going through the motions.
Right, like roommates.
It's like roommates, exactly.
Yeah.
So she's saying like, no, bring that spark back.
Bring the spark back.
Cultivate that erotic intelligence.
Erotic intelligence. I love that.
Yeah. It's a great term.
It is a great term.
And it's something that we can all work on.
I think so too.
No matter how long we've been in a relationship.
So what are some ways that we can cultivate erotic intelligence?
Well, one of the things she talks about is like creating a sense of space for desire,
Cry.
like literally and figuratively.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, literally. Like creating a space in your home that feels sensual and inviting.
Okay, so like candles and nice sheets and...
Exactly, like setting the mood.
Okay.
But then figuratively, it's about creating space in your mind
Okay.
for desire to flourish.
So like not being so caught up
Yeah, not being so caught up.
in the everyday stress.
Yeah, then the to-do list and the kids in the
In the bills.
in the bills, yeah. Like giving yourself permission to like let go
Of all of that.
of all of that.
And just be present.
Be present in your body, be present with your partner.
Okay, so it's like creating that mental space.
Creating that mental and emotional space
For desire.
for desire to emerge.
Because if you're all stressed out,
Yeah,
you're probably not going to be in the mood.
probably not.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so she talks a lot about like the importance of playfulness
Okay.
and like bringing a sense of fun and adventure.
Into the bedroom.
Yeah, into the erotic realm.
Okay.
Because when we get stuck in a routine,
Yeah.
things can get a little boring.
Yeah. It's like we were saying earlier about the whole relationship.
Yeah,
It could apply to the bedroom as well.
absolutely.
So how do we bring back that playfulness?
Well, one of the things she suggests is like trying new things.
Okay.
Stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Like what kind of things?
Well, it could be anything from like, trying a new position to like exploring different kinds of touch.
Okay.
To like using toys.
Okay.
Like whatever feels exciting and interesting to you.
So it's really about like figuring out what you like.
Yeah, it's about exploring your own desires
Okay.
and communicating those desires to your partner
Yeah.
and then figuring out what you can do together.
That feels good for both of you.
That feels good for both of you, yeah.
Okay.
And she also talks a lot about the importance of fantasy
Okay.
and how fantasy can actually be a really powerful tool
For...
for enhancing erotic intelligence.
So like how does that work?
Well, we all have fantasies.
Yeah.
But we don't always feel comfortable sharing them with our partner.
Because we're afraid of being judged?
Yeah, or hurting their feelings or...
What if they think I don't love them?
Exactly.
Okay.
But she's saying, like, actually sharing those fantasies
Okay.
can actually create a sense of intimacy and excitement.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's not necessarily about acting out the fantasies.
Oh.
It's more about just, like, creating a space
Okay.
where you can talk about them.
Openly and honestly.
Openly and honestly. Yeah.
Okay.
And it can be a little scary at first,
Yeah, I can imagine.
but if you can kind of like create that safe container
Right.
where you both feel comfortable
Yeah.
being vulnerable with each other,
Right.
it can actually be a really bonding experience
Okay, so it's like you're letting your partner into
into your inner world.
into your inner world,
Yeah.
and that can be really exciting.
It can be really exciting.
Okay.
And it can also help you to like learn more about yourself
Right.
and what turns you on.
And then you can share that with your partner.
Exactly.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah.
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, she's really got some great insights.
She really does. I love her work.
Me too.
And I feel like we've just scratched the surface
Oh, yeah, there's so much more to explore.
in her books and her talks.
Absolutely.
So we'll definitely have to do another deep dive into her work at some point.
Let's do it.
But for now, I think it's time to wrap things up.
Okay.
So thank you so much for joining us
Yeah, thanks for having me.
on this deep dive into Esther Perel's wisdom.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found this conversation insightful and inspiring.
And we encourage you to keep exploring
These ideas
these ideas.
and see how they can apply to your own relationships.
Because ultimately,
Yeah.
relationships are a journey.
They are a journey.
And they're worth the effort.
They are worth the effort.
So keep those sparks flying.
Yes, keep those sparks flying.
And we'll see you next time.
For another deep dive into the world of fascinating ideas.